equality now feels like oppression to those people who were at the top of the ladder.
This is not about abandoning those values. It's about making sure we're in touch with the first principles that animate them. What do we mean when we talk about diversity?
Not necessarily because of their merit, but because of their identity.
Sense.
Right, but isn't that kind of merit-based? Isn't that the whole argument that DEI is against?
Well, she dug in because she studied, she's a consultant on DEI for companies for 10 plus years. And what
that blind hiring could work, I think that's
But wouldn't
something.
it take the
but it's not
race
about
or identity out of
but
it,
it's
and it would
not
be purely based on what you put forward?
But I think he got that so wrong, and I think it was so tone deaf, considering
Which
what's
part?
going on. All of it. I thought all of it was tone deaf.
she's saying that
I'm
companies
saying-
end up doing tokenism rather than helping.
Coming in hot, guys, because Exhibit A, morale is low at The View after host asked to dial back the Trump criticism. Okay, these people were told to heal, okay, like the freaking female dogs that they are. They were told to heal, okay? They were told, sit, boy, sit, okay? Because they basically have like these screeching sessions every single day. Anything that relates to Trump, if it's something good that Trump does, the economy's improving. Trump's got a awesome approval rating. Trump's shut down the border, like things that, you know, they claim the Democrats wanted to do, like strengthen the economy, shut down the border, so forth. Trump does it and they complain about it. These people don't have brains in their head. And as you saw from the intro here, DEI is something that's another hill that they mysteriously want to die on, because every single time that the Democrats come up with something, they tie it into making black people or other people of color feel as though they're losing something if it goes away. Case in point, critical race theory, which has very little to do with black people. That's why it's called critical race theory and not black history. But these dummies, fools, idiots allowed themselves to be hoodwinked and bamboozled and feel like they were the good guys. Okay, there's an obsession with virtue signaling. There's an obsession with being the good guy, so much so that these people's brains turn to mush and they just fail to think critically about anything. Now, I want to go ahead and show you guys this clip with Pete Buttigieg, actually, like what he actually said, so you could see what they're freaking out about.
A little bit of that event you described, and it was a caricature of everything that's wrong with our ability both to cohere as a party and to reach to those who don't always agree with us. And we cannot go on like that. We cannot. I also think that we believe in the values that we care about for a reason. And this is not about abandoning those values. It's about making sure we're in touch with the first principles that animate them. What do we mean when we talk about diversity? Is it caring for people's different experiences and making sure no one's mistreated because of them, which I will always fight for? Or is it making people sit through a training that looks like something out of Portlandia, which I have also experienced, and it is how Trump Republicans are made, if that comes to your workplace with the best of intentions, but doesn't actually get at what actually matters here, what's actually at stake. I think, and this might sound counterintuitive, if we were more serious about the actual values and not caught up in vocabularies and trying to cater to everybody only in terms of their particular slice of combinations of identities versus the shared project, actually, if we thought about it a little bit differently, things like diversity would be actually an example of how we reach out beyond our traditional coalition. And what I mean by that is the opposite of diversity is uniformity. And if there's one thing I really respect about principled conservatives, even if I don't always agree with them, is that they have a horror of anything that has a whiff of being pressed into conformity by government or by society. So I would like to appeal to people who, whether it's because of a conservative or libertarian instinct or a more progressive instinct, or I would say just an American belief that part of the point of living in a country like this is you don't have to conform to what other people demand of you, that we're not only on board with that, we're champions of that.
Now, normally I wouldn't agree with anything that this weirdo has to say, but I think that what he's trying to do, because obviously, you know, I'm playing in a different dimension in terms of thought process than a lot of other people, is Pete is probably trying to position himself as more of a moderate. If obviously Kamala would have won the election, he wouldn't have, you know, said anything. But obviously, since the country is shifting, the Democrats are shifting, which in fairness is what you should do, right? Like you should follow what the population wants and say, hey, population, I'm going to give you what you want. However, I don't really think that in Pete's case is genuine, because he's probably just trying to position himself. He knows that the Democrat primaries are going to come up eventually. You know, he's got more tenure, more experience, even though he failed miserably as the Secretary of Transportation, failing to get anyone connected to was it like these electric vehicle chargers? I think he built like 8 of them or something, like something really stupid. And he lost billions of dollars that mysteriously disappeared. Who the hell knows where it went? But that said, I'm sure that he's planning on a run in the future. So, but without further ado, I want to go ahead and react to the cackling hens on The View having complete meltdowns as something that, to an extent, in my opinion, is quite reasonable. Look at her stupid face. She's effing up already. This has got to be like one of the most unlikable people on the internet. It's like even the thought of clicking a button just.
I think, and what
do you think, Sonny?
I like Pete, of course, but I think he got that so wrong, and I think it was so tone deaf, considering
Which
what's
part?
going on. All of it. I thought all of it was tone deaf.
And bear in mind, this is The View, so I can't just play it out. Okay, like 10, 15 seconds, they nuke the video. But imagine calling policies that Trump has, which are basically have like roughly 50 to 70% approval rating for all of them across the board, and then calling Buttigieg tone deaf here. Come on, Sonny, you thought Kamala was going to win.
From 1776 to 1965, you have basically white men in charge of everything, right? Women, people of color, we're left out of just equality of opportunity.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, now you have a whole show with 5 women on it. As a matter of fact, the entire show has always had women on it. That was the whole purpose of the show. Like, the main panel is all women, and they still got a bunch of dudes working at the show, but they're behind the scenes doing the technical work and some of the producing work and so forth.
That sort of thing. And I think when that equality starts popping up in terms of diversity program, equality now feels like oppression to those people who were at the top of the ladder, not necessarily because of their merit, but because of their identity.
Well, Sonny, the reason is because if you have race quotas, if you look at names on an application and you pick Watermelonisha over Thomas, then yeah, I think you have a problem.
When you look at the stats, it is really clear from McKinsey, actually, a consulting firm that Pete used to work for, that firm found that companies with more diversity financially and socially outperform those that are less diverse. So the business case.
So Sonny Holston is talking about McKinsey. McKinsey is a place that provides, she just said it herself, consulting services. Consulting services for what, you might ask? For DEI. Imagine a place that provides services, providing data, proving that their services are worthwhile. Who knew? Is there a conflict of interest here? Of course not, Sonny.
Results of key studies by corporate consultant McKinsey & Company, which have been used to promote the tenets of diversity, equity, and inclusion in corporations, government departments, and the U.S. military, have been called into question over flaws in their methodology. Basically, an independent panel of professors sat down and tried to recreate the conditions of those studies and found that they could not replicate the results. They found no noticeable difference between the performance of companies with high DEI scores and low DEI scores, and it's certainly not anything attributable to the DEI programs themselves. It seems like the performance was completely based on other factors, as all of us knew the entire time.
If the problem is these programs, what is the solution? Should we just then depend on the benevolence of Elon Musk and white billionaires to hire women and people of color?
No.
They didn't do it from 1776 to 1965. Why do we think it's going to be any different?
Guys, now we're going back hundreds of years.
The Oscars now is they have to have all these. You have to have a person of color that's right leg has to be shorter than the other leg, and one of their eyes has to be lazy. It's like, what the hell? What do you think?
And as a reminder for anybody who is newer to this channel or just forgot, I work with data every day. Okay, I got a day job. I work with data every day, and whatever the people at the top, the corporate ladder tell you, from the CEO on down, that's what the data is going to reflect. Not whatever the actuality it is. They're going to tell you to take this out, change this color, change this number, round this up, remove this category. They're going to tell you to do whatever the hell it takes to promote their narrative. Is not really that hard, guys. For anybody who tries to use that stupid phrase, numbers don't lie. Well, it's called in accounting, it's a well-known phrase. Also, it's called cooking. the books.
A lot of consultants get hired by big corporations to make people feel really good that they're achieving diversity because they put on a seminar, because you watch something, because you said Latinx instead of Latina. And I don't know that there's actually huge metrics. I've tried to.
Who do you guys know that actually wants to hear somebody say Latinx? Trump tried this at a bunch of rallies where it was a bunch of Hispanic people and they all just laughed like, no, it's Latino. Latina. Who the hell invented this Latinx ish?
New York Times staged fake interviews with diverse candidates after the position had been filled to check off their boxes of minority inclusion. That's not helping anyone. So a lot of the problem is that,
that implies that
Lily
the woman
Zhang
wasn't qualified for the job.
there was no job. It's so politically charged. So many people are so frustrated that people are pushing back on DEI that they're not taking a minute to pause that maybe DEI itself needed improvements in its actual application. DEI was never focused on the results. It was just the commitment to the results. So some of the ways you change it, Sonny, you've been asking all day, like what are the things?
What's the solution?
So she has solutions. Blind hiring. There are a lot of things that you can couch in.
Blind hiring, that makes sense.
Right.
But
the
isn't
point
that
is,
kind of merit-based? Isn't that the whole argument that DEI is against?
well, she dug in because she studied.
They don't want merit-based. Deep down, this is why they don't want merit-based. It's deep down, or maybe even on the surface, they're just too dishonest to admit it, that they know that when you really put the vast majority of minorities side by side, put the resumes next to resumes, the vast majority of minorities do not beat out the majority of people that are white in America in terms of skill on paper. They already know that. They probably don't outperform them in interviews either. Have y'all seen how some of these people talk? Right? Like some of these people can barely speak English and they were born here because they picked up some stupid dialect or something.
So she gonna keep saying trans, trans, trans so that people will feel threatened. And child, listen, I want y'all
I
to
am
tell
no
me
child.
whether or
Do
not
not call me a child. I am no child.
I want
Don't
to
even
find
start.
out
I am a grown
which
woman.
of those
I am 47 years
emails
old. I have broken
actually
more
have.
glass ceilings than you
Chairman,
ever
I
will.
am reclaiming my
Let's go.
time.
You will not do that. I
Order.
am not a
Chairman,
child. I
I
am
am
not a
reclaiming.
child.
Stuff like that, people notice and they find it to be jarring. Like, ew, like, why does this person talk like that? Anything that you're trying to get into, people are going to want you to be like a part of that culture. Like, okay, you're expected to kind of act like this, talk like this. That doesn't mean act white and talk white. It means professional. It's real simple. And they don't care about the merit. They just want to make sure that the outcome is equal no matter what.
Regardless
Blind
of the
hiring is the opposite of DEI.
No, that's not true.
Stupid people.
DEI programs make sure that the most qualified candidates, traditionally excluded from opportunity, are given the chance to compete. So this
No, Sonny, that's what it might have been intended to be at one point, but it's certainly not that way anymore.
that's
Wouldn't
something.
it take the
but it's not
race
about
or identity
merit,
out of
but
it
it's
and it would
not
be purely based on what you put forward?
But it's not about merit because the people that are in these DEI programs are already the best of the best.
What?
Get the hell out! Get out! Get out! Get out!
He's saying the
I'm
companies
saying-
end up doing tokenism rather than helping.
I mean,
by the way they approach
the number of
DEI.
times I've
Not
had people in
tokenism.
corporate America be like, lean into the fact that you're an Arab American. I don't ever want somebody to be able to look at me and say, you were a DEI hire.
So we're going to see within the next 6 months, within the next year, if there are less people of color or more or the same in the C-suites and the corporate
there will
offices.
be less.
And so if Target gets rid of DEI, they're getting rid of me.
Yeah, who the hell cares if they get rid of your fat ass anyway? But like, I mean, one less annoying person that's gonna walk into their store. But guys, to say that they're getting the best talent because of DEI is just stupid as hell. If they're looking for the best talent, they straight up rejected Alyssa's notion of being colorblind. Like, yeah, let's just not look at color. Hey, like, I know that, okay, do we live in a society, like, let's talk real for a second. Do we live in a society where they're not going to have interviews where they could clearly see or hear your voice or whatever? I mean, no, right? So we know that obviously they can still judge based off of stuff like that. But let's say, hypothetically, let's say in a world where we could do that, what would be wrong with that? Especially if you make it to the interviews because they already see resumes with, like, let's say no names on them or something. that's something that is a much better approach. But these people don't want that. They want their stupid DEI programs because they know that if they're not being honest right now, but honestly, they know that people who aren't really qualified make it into positions. And can some white folks make it into positions too that they're not qualified for? Of course they can. But there's no program that exists that's just automatically going to, and the world at large isn't just, oh, we're just going to pick unqualified white people. That doesn't make any sense. When you have a DEI program, they literally have a quota. So you know for a fact that they're going to be picking some unqualified people sometimes. And that is the problem. It's not okay to just have a program where you have basically people coming up with racial quotas. Yeah, I mean, we got enough Asians in here. You know, we need some more black people. Oh, we got enough straight people. We need some more LGBTQ people. So, you know, we're not going to hire this highly qualified person. That's the problem with DEI. These people refuse to acknowledge what the problems are because they're just intellectually dishonest people, guys. They've heard the arguments. They've heard the solutions. They just reject them because that's just not what they want. These cackling hens don't give a damn about nobody else. They want what they want. They don't care about what the Americans want. They're clearly out of touch. And that's why their show is failing and their morale is down. And even Pete Buttigieg's ass knows the people better than these dummies. But these are just my thoughts, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I appreciate y'all watching the Black Anomaly Rising channel. I'm out.
March 15th of 2020, during the Democratic primary debate, then candidate Joe Biden committed to selecting a woman as his vice presidential running mate. So never at any point was it, I want the most qualified person to be my running mate. It's, I need a woman to be my running mate.
Hey, Joe, we did it, Joe.